So I want to do a little illustration to show you what parts of the teeth are involved in different things and why I use these explanations in my videos so that you have a better understanding about what teeth are all about. So we'll just pick a tooth. Let's pick a canine, for example. And we're going to draw a canine. Okay, so the outline of the tooth is like this. There is a layer called enamel, and it is about, in proportion to the tooth, it's about this thick. And the layer all through here, okay, is dentin, and then this is enamel. Now there's a junction right here where the enamel ends and the dentin sort of begins, and we call that the DEJ, or dentin enamel junction. So I'm just going to make it simple and call it the DEJ. And we also have inside the tooth, in order to nourish the tooth and give it nice vitality, we have a blood supply, sort of like a river that comes in and gives us nerves and blood vessels. So that usually will also mimic the shape of the tooth. And it's sort of like that. Now, this blood supply, as we age, this blood supply actually gets smaller and smaller. So when we're very young, the blood supply and the nerve supply is very close to the outside. So when we get a cavity, so let's pretend we get some sort of insult to the tooth. If we start here, the first sort of insult. So the first time a cavity starts, it will start and it'll make its way right to this special line called the dentin enamel junction. So that sort of goes all the way around here, this junction. And if it gets past that very junction, then it will start to spread. So it may go that way or that way. But when it first starts to cause a cavity, it'll go straight in. So it goes in, and then it will go sort of laterally. But it'll also go this way as well. So it will slowly progress, bigger and bigger, until it reaches a critical point where the nerve and the blood supply is. It may reach that point, and up until even here, you'll probably have no pain, which is really interesting and cool thing about teeth. But even up until here, you may not notice a whole thing. Now, when you come in, you see the dentist, and the dentist says you need a filling. Now it's already really big. We have to take out all that decay, but we also are going to cause a little bit of inflammation to the nerve and vascular supply inside the tooth. So sometimes the tooth, it's past the point you would still need a root canal. And I'll talk about what a root canal is in a second, but the decay, once it reaches, a certain point and the dentist then has to take it out, it can be very devastating for the nerve tissue. It doesn't mean you're going to lose the whole tooth, but it just means that. So you're going to need, a filling that could be, let's say, this big in size, and then it may need a root canal. If it needs a root canal, we're probably going to go down through the center. We'll make a little hole, and we'll go down and we'll clean out all this material. A root canal does not mean you lose the root, it just means you lose the nerve tissue that's causing the pain. And pain that's associated with teeth can start with just a little bit of sensitivity, and then it can go to a full throbbing toothache. When it's throbbing, it's because the nerve inside of here is trying to expand. There's a lot of inflammation and swelling. So as it pulses, like your blood flow pulses, it will really throb. But sometimes a tooth the nerve can die and you actually have no pain. So teeth are very complex, and sometimes you can't always tell which tooth is even the problem. But when we see a large cavity, we definitely know that that's probably a good indication that it's that tooth. That's if you can't tell. Now, the access or a root canal procedure, if we have to do one, will immediately take away the pain. And again, we access through here. We take out all this, so it leaves like an empty chamber inside the tooth. And then that will be then filled with a man-made material called gutta perca. And that then gets closed up with a filling. So with a root canal, you're going to have this cleaned out, and you're also going to have a filling here, and you may also have a filling down through the top of the tooth if it means that it was done after the fact, or depending on where the original decay was. Why do teeth have sensitivity, though? I want to talk about that. So I'm going to draw you a new picture so that you have a better idea here. I'm going to draw a tooth. This time I'm going to draw a molar. Okay, so there's the nerve tissue. And blood supply. And then we have, of course, this is the dentin. This is all this sort of core, like a core of an apple, like the white part of an apple. Core would be the dentin. And then the enamel, right? So there is a level of bone. So let's say this tooth had, just pretend for a second it doesn't have neighbors. It has some bone, which kind of goes into here. And we're gonna go bone into here. And so the bone should be right around where the junction of the dentin enamel finish, or that finish, and you go into straight dentin. And there's a reason for that, or I think if there's a reason for that, is because dentin, okay, has all these little tubules. It's very, very porous, and it has like little tunnels or little hallways or little tubes. Okay, and those tubes, they follow all the way around. Now, if we were to remove some of the enamel, or the bone was to go away, so we have what we call recession. So recession is where the bone kind of drops down to a new level. So now it's gone down to here. Now this root is exposed. So cold, I like to draw a picture of a cloud blowing. I don't know if I can do that. Wind. Okay, it's a cloud blowing. So cold air comes in, it goes straight into these little tubes, okay, and sends a message to the nerve tissue, which will travel, of course, amazingly, very quickly, as our brains and bodies work so fast, down through here. This exits the tooth, and we're going to just draw our brain here. This is your brain, okay, all the little squiggly things. So your brain gets a message that cold air or something has touched or gone through these tubes. It's sort of like an alarm system. And then it comes down through the nerve and goes up to the brain and says, okay, there's something cold here. Now we have to, that gives you a message back, it's cold. Let's stop drinking the cold water. Let's stop whitening. Let's stop brushing, whatever. Maybe there's recession. But no matter what the cause, you will get a message through this nerve system. And it's, again, very porous, a lot of these little tubes. Enamel, depending on how thick it is, so let's say it could be even thicker than this, is going to act as a great barrier, as a great shield. Don't laugh at me. For your dentin, okay? So the dentin's very soft, very weak, and the enamel's very hard. So you want to build up layers of enamel. Enamel can be thickened, or not thickened, but protected with things like, desensitizing toothpaste. It can have fluoride rinses, things like that, to help strengthen the outer layer. So if you strengthen the outer layer, there's less likely that we're going to be able to penetrate that and ever get into the hair. Now, some people are not as fortunate enough to have very thick enamel, so they tend to have thinner enamel, and then maybe they tend to have more sensitive teeth. And also pain thresholds will be affected by that. One of the other things I want to mention, the tooth itself, so the bone levels and the gum tissue. So I'm actually going to do another drawing here because I want to talk about how the gum tissue also really helps protect the tooth and give you a little bit more and more comfort with your teeth. Let's just draw a premolar this time. It's a little flat, worn down premolar. We won't lie about that. And as I said too, as we age, this nerve tissue will shrink. So it'll go down. So you'll feel less and less sensitivity sometimes as we age. This gets smaller, and then the tooth starts to build up like another layer in here, and it gets a little thicker. So that's, again, for someone who's having major, forces on the teeth, the tooth and the nerves start to build up protection against itself. But let's look at the bone. So around every tooth is a series of ligaments. I'm going to exaggerate this for you. So the tooth sits in a socket, okay? Our teeth are actually slightly mobile. If we were to look at them under more magnification, we would see there's actually some movement. And you think about a bungee, or you think about a trampoline that the kids jump on. So every tooth is attached into the bone with these little ligaments. These are collagen ligaments. They're called the Paradata Ligament or the PDL. Okay, so I'm gonna, just for the sake of that, I'm not gonna do them all. Two great things to know about this. One is they can really stretch and help move a tooth. So let's say we wanna move the tooth through bone to help move them with orthodontics. They're going to stretch and break, and then there's going to be some reattachment over here, compression here, stretching here, and then the tooth can kind of go that way. But as far as from a health standpoint, if we just look at the tooth, we're not trying to move it. It's got these little ligaments, and now bacteria can, because bacteria will do anything they can to make us crazy. We're going to go into here like this. Okay. So this is the bone, this is the ligament. If the bacteria go right into this little spot here, they can sit in here and collect, okay? If they collect there too long, now when you floss, this is what you're doing. You're removing the bacteria into this area. If I do it on this side, I'll exaggerate it, okay? So there's like bacteria that go into this little space. Now when we floss and we bring the string around, a lot of us will bring the string to there, but we won't bring it all the way down to here. So we need to bring the floss all the way to the bottom. And that, I think of that as like a turtleneck. I've talked about that in my other videos. And so when you bring the floss down, you are cleaning the bacteria that are partying down in this area. If you don't, they will create little ulcers, little holes in the gum tissue. So literally the bacteria will create these little ulcers, and ulcers bleed. And when we do bring the floss after like 5 or more days, let's say, now the ulcers are bleeding, so we'll get this blood droplets coming out here. So we get bleeding gums, okay? Now, if the bacteria are allowed to sit there even longer, they will start to progress and go down into the ligament further. So now we have what's called, your hygienist might say to you, oh, you have a pocket, okay? So now you have some sort of pocket. Now the bacteria are down to here. Well, guess what? Your floss is never going to get here. Your floss is only going to get down to here. Okay? At the best, or maybe here. But now you're here. This is why you would have to see your hygienist more often for maintenance if you've started to lose bone, which is now called gum disease or periodontal disease, because the bacteria are still going to make their way down there. And every 3 to 4 months, the studies have shown that is the critical amount of time where they start to cause even further damage, and they will go even deeper. So they keep going deeper and deeper. But if you come in regularly for every 3 to 4 months and have the hygienist go in with their special tools, and their special tools are like special curves on them and hooks, and I don't even want to draw it because it looks scary. But the point is that the hygienist can get down in there and can clean to the base of that pocket, okay? So again, it's like the turtleneck just got way deeper, and the hole is very deep now, and now it's down here. So that's why we don't want you to lose bone. And if you lose bone, guess what? These little tubules, as I drew earlier, now it looks like you have recession, and now things are cold, like sensitive to cold, because the nerve that's here is now going to transmit once again, the message that this area is no longer protected. It's lost its winter's coat for us Canadians. And so now it's going to travel in here, go to the brain, and tell you that you have a problem. So a lot of these patients that have, the bone loss, the recession, they're using Sensodyne to help block these tubules so that the nerve, you can't feel it as much. So I hope that helped explain things. Sorry about my drawing. But that is, sort of some general concepts with teeth and, some of the problems that we see and some of the things that I like to explain. And, it's fun to draw, so. I'm going to draw it a little bit smaller this time. No, I'm not. So let's draw this again. Hold on. No, I can't draw a tooth now.